Hello? Just speaker test. Hello? That's weird.
Hello?
Are you looping now? Why are you looping? Oh, you can hear me now? Oh, great. Sweet. Okay. I don't know what the issue was. I didn't really do anything. But as long as you can hear me, that's great. Fabulous. I guess I just had to kickstart it somehow. Okay. Well, welcome back. I didn't get a chance to write out my outline for today, so I'm going to sort of run through the agenda with all of you right now so that I don't forget. And if I do, you can remind me if I forget something. So we're going to quickly do the last portion of cloak construction. I'm going to talk a little bit about two questions that were asked in the original cloak survey, and that was pockets and how to attach a cloak clasp. So I'm going to demonstrate that very quickly, and hopefully it will make sense with this setup. And speaking of this setup and the sound issue, I think I know what the source of the issue that I've been having for the past few weeks is. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think I know where I need to troubleshoot. So I have a feeling that now that you can hear me, there isn't that like weird background thing that has been happening. So just confirm that for me in the comments, and that will confirm if my hunch on what the source of that issue has been is correct or not. And then I can figure out how to troubleshoot that before I do another live. So we're going to do the last portion of the cloak construction. I'm going to talk about pockets, and we're going to put on a cloak clasp. I'm going to show you some things with that. And then we're going to do the fashion show presentation. I hope that it works the way I think it's going to work. And then I'm going to pick the winners of the giveaway. A quick thank you to all of you for joining me every Friday, for being in the participating in the Cloak-a-Long, for your comments, for your DMs. It has been really fun for me to organize this. I've never organized a sew-along before. I've had a lot of fun. It's been really, really great connecting with all of you and sewing with all of you, and I would love to do it again. I will probably do some survey questions on Instagram, just to see what your guys' thoughts are. I have some thoughts of my own. I would do things a little bit differently next time. And what else? I think that's what I have for right now. And then that's it. And then I won't see you for a little while. And we'll have to figure out something else to sew. So speaking of sewing, we're going to I'm going to talk about pockets first, because I kind of just have like a quick demo related to that, and not I don't have like I don't really have an example of really showing it to you, but someone asked about pockets, and I think that, we all need extra pockets in our lives. So I saw at the museum that I work at, there's an Extant evening cape from the 1890s, I believe. It was this really beautiful blue silk, and it had a blue quilted silk lining, and it had the cutest little patch pocket on the inside that was made from the same quilted silk as the lining. So that is one solution that you could use to put a pocket on the inside of your cloak, is to just do a really simple, straightforward patch pocket. This one was really tiny, and I think that it was probably like meant for like a handkerchief, or something small. It was basically in the realm of like a key, a coin, and a handkerchief, or like, I don't know, maybe lipstick or something. But you really couldn't put a whole lot in there, and it didn't have a closure at the top of the patch pocket. So whatever you put in there would probably, if it had any sort of weight, would fall out really easily. But putting a closure on the top of a patch pocket would also work if you wanted to keep something from falling out when you take it off. And, you know, if you put it over your arm or you put it over the back of a chair or something like that, you know, happens with coat pockets too. So one of the things that I was thinking that would be another alternative would be, so the way that, and hopefully I can show this to you, but on my cloak, this seam, which I think you can see, is the seam where the sort of wedge shapes attach. And I meant to bring my example, my pattern example, but it cuts right through the arm slits. And where it cuts on your arm slits is going to vary depending on the width of your fabric and exactly how you cut this. So this is the seam in my lining, and the seam on the self, which you're probably not going to see, is here on the other side. So it's a little bit lower just because the widths of the fabric is different. But when I was looking at this, if I had planned ahead, because of the way this seam lays, it would be really easy to put an inseam pocket, like a little secret pocket inside the lining, kind of like an inside chest pocket on a men's suit. You could really easily put a pocket in here, especially if you think about it before you sew this together. And it would be really easy to just put a little snap or a button to help keep it closed if you wanted to put something in there. If you were at an event and you wanted, you know, something you wanted easy access to, but didn't want to really change the look of the garment. It would be really easy to do that on either the inside or the outside, and you would have, you know, pretty easy access to it because it's right next to your arm slits. So if you're looking to put pockets in your cloak and you don't want them to be super noticeable, my tip would be to pay attention to where your seams are and to use your seams, because then it will hide a little bit better. And you could use your lining fabric, you could use something completely different, you know, just like some scrap cotton or something, because no one's going to see it. Or you could just put a patch pocket on the inside. It's clearly historically accurate if you're doing the 1890s. I wish I could show you that cloak. It's so pretty. Maybe in the after times, I'll be able to show you some things with permission, of course, from the museum that I work at. So those are my thoughts on pockets. I know that some people have also used, you could also use the seam between your lining and your self fabric to maybe hide a little pocket. I feel like as modern people, when I go to events, whether it's a reenactment or a weekend event, or it's just like a dance or a tea or something that's like less formal as far as historical accuracy is concerned, I feel like I always have extra things that I'm carrying around with me that, you know, a historical person wouldn't necessarily have, like, you know, this thing. Or like, you know, keys, like the key fob for my car or something, like just sort of these kind of bulky things that we wouldn't have had, you know, 300 years ago or 100 years ago or whatever. So those are my thoughts on pockets. I love putting pockets in everything. So if you want to put pockets in your cloak, I highly support that endeavor. And then we're going to talk about cloak clasps. This is the one that I have. It is, it's from Patterns of Time, that's what it's called. They have a very large selection of cloak clasps, both modern and sort of more vintage historical styles. So if you're looking for a cloak clasp, I highly recommend them because they have a great selection. And essentially it's just a fancy hook and eye. So you would attach this basically how you would any other hook and eye. You just need to be a little bit more careful about it because it's going to show. And one of the things that you're going to have to keep in mind is how you want the front of your cloak to lay when your clasp is closed. Because, and I have this issue when I put like hook and eyes on the back of like dresses and things like that, is if you don't line it up correctly, you're going to wind up with a gap of fabric in between. So you just need to kind of pay attention how you're lining it up. And so what I'm doing right now that you can't see because I'm using the setup that does not have weird sound effects in the background is I'm placing my cloak clasp at the neckline of my cloak. And maybe this will work better if I do this way. So maybe this will work better. So the neck on my cloak is the full 24 inches that the original pattern measured. And I guess I should talk about that too. So if you can kind of see, there we'll use my face as the background. There's a gap. If you don't want that gap, you're going to have to make sure that the hook and the loop, the full loop, are on your cloak and not over the edge. And I'm gonna maybe see if I can quickly sew one side of these on so that you can see it. I have a doubled length of silk thread in my needle. Okay, just making sure that's the right direction. And there's little loops that you can sew through. This one has loops that you can sew through, but also you can see that based on this design, you could also probably sew through the design. I also realized there's little divots in here where if I really wanted to be fancy, I could put in some rhinestones. That might be really fun if I was doing something more fantasy, I would say. You could also just use a super large hook and eye. You don't have to use something that's decorative. And all I'm doing, and I wish that it was easier for you to see this, but all I'm doing is just sewing this like I would any other hook and eye, and just going through the attachment sort of loops a few times. I'm doing this pretty quickly and I'm not attaching it very, I'm gonna say solidly. If I can find the other, there we go. You'll probably want to do this, I don't know, at least 3, if not more times. I don't know. I don't think I've ever really counted how many times I go through. It was my job for quite a while as a costume assistant to sew snaps on button-down shirts for quick changes. And that is not fun. It's very tedious because you have to sew the button on at the same time that you're sewing the snap on, because it has to look like a button-down shirt when you're done. All right, so here's one side sort of on. Move this off. And what you could do, depending on the material that your cloak is made out of, whatever you're putting at your neck, you could always add a little bit of reinforcement on the inside, either inside the lining or just on top of the lining if you're finding that your fabric combination is not really holding whatever you're sewing down. So if you're sewing ribbons or you're sewing a clasp, all right, here we go. So I have this side sewn on. Let me take the loop off so you can see it. And it is essentially so that the hook is right over the edge. And I would probably actually, instead of having these threads visible, I would probably hide them in between the layers, but for the sake of speediness and brevity of showing this to you, so that now when I put this other side on, when it closes, it's going to match. So when I put the other side on, I'm going to make sure the edge of the loop is right at the edge of the fabric so that when I hook them together, I'm just holding it. It's not on there. The edges will be closed together and not like this, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. See if maybe I can get this one on. Well, I am looking at some of the comments. Yes, awesome. Oh, Krista put a pocket in her cloak to hold her gloves. That's a great idea. And yes, the large hook and eyes from Burnley and Trowbridge are perfect cloak clasps. I actually use those on my stays. They're very hardy hook and eyes. And Catherine put her hook and eye on the inside so that it didn't show on the outside. That's also a really good idea. And then if you wanted to put a ribbon to be pretty, or you have trim like Catherine had, the cloak and eye isn't interfering with your trim. Let's see. Get this on really quickly. All right, this thread is too short to go through all of the holes on this cloak clasp, but and then we can see how this goes. I feel like this is like classic last minute like costume making, because I'm literally like kind of wearing the cloak while I'm sewing on the last bits. It's like going to an event and having to sew yourself into something. So there we go. You can see it. You could just see my thumb right there, but let me sit up a little bit so you can see my neck. But it actually closes. It looks like it's not closing, but it's actually closing. The fabric is just, the edge is kind of pulling as I'm trying to show it, pull this up. So I did not change, going back to your cloak choking you. The neckline on this is 24 inches. This is the original length that was in costume close-up. And it actually sits really well. It's a little bit weird since I'm actually sitting on my floor and I'm not standing up. But it's very wide in the neck. If it was really, really cold out, I would definitely need to have like a neck handkerchief, or like the little funny fur scarves, a tippet. I would need to probably want something around my neck a little bit more, just because this is where I tend to get cold. But it sits really well. I thought that it was going to pull back a lot because it's very wide, and it doesn't. Even like the hood isn't that big. but it doesn't really pull back. So I think that it has, part of it I think is the way that this is cut, which again, I meant to bring the little diagram. I might be able to grab it really quickly. But I think part of it has to do with the way that it's cut, where it's very balanced. I don't know if this would work the same if I had cut it, if I had actually cut a half circle instead of cutting the width of a fabric and then adding the wedges. I'm going to see if I can actually grab the diagram because it'll make a little bit more sense. So hold on 1 second. Okay. It was like literally 1 second. And then I just need to find my paper diagram. So the body of the cloak is actually cut. Essentially, this is the full width of the fabric, and then you cut wings. And this is the seam that I was talking about where you could put your pocket. Because when this goes over your shoulder, it actually winds up being horizontal across your front. So here's your arm slit. And then you could easily just put a little pocket in here in the lining or in the fashion fabric, which would make that really easy. So yeah, I will need to do some more experiments to see if some of the ideas I talked about before when we were talking about how to stop your cloak from choking you. I'm going to try, I think, a short cloak with Sue Felshen's tutorial and see, because she has you cut the neckline right at your collarbone. And maybe that has something to do with it, or maybe she doesn't add as much in the back. I'm not sure. I have to play with it. So I'll continue experimenting and see what I come up with on that front. And another super quick hot tip for all of you. I went to put some fray check on the lining for the arm slits, just because it was fraying from having worked with it. I should have waited to cut them. I should have waited until like now to cut them instead of cutting them when I cut everything, because the silk was fraying. And I went to put some fray check on it just to sort of stabilize that and make it a little bit easier to turn under a really tiny allowance, and realized that because I rarely use fray check, that it had turned into like a gelatinous glob that was not going to be useful. But I had these, which is like a little Elmer's glue. And I think I bought this in like a pack of 3 or 4 from the dollar store. And they have like little, like tiny precision tips on them. I think they're for scrapbooking or something. And I was like, well, I'm going to try that and see if it works. And it worked pretty well, actually. So if you're ever out of fray check, or you want like a less expensive, because I think this was definitely less expensive than fray check, Elmer's glue works just as well, which I thought was kind of funny. So there you go, Elmer's glue instead of fray check. It's a little scratchy, but I seem to recall that fray check is kind of scratchy. All right, so those are the hot tips. All right. It is a perfect place for a pocket. The way that seam cuts across the front is like super perfect. So if you want to put hidden pockets in your cloaks, I would definitely recommend paying attention to where your seam lines are, because that is really a perfect place to do it. And you could just do like a really basic, just like, a square rectangle shaped pocket bag. You don't have to do anything funny or weird and curved or anything. Maybe when I try out Sue Felshen's tutorial, I can actually do like a demo of how you would do that. Okay. So my next technical challenge is figuring out if I can get the fashion show to play. Let's see if this works. And I want this. Just bear with me for 1 second while I make sure that this will work, because I think I need to do this in a really specific order. And hopefully it works well. All right. So I'm not actually going to be able to do that. I can't play the music with it. Hopefully it works well. All right. There you go, and we loop again. So this and this. And sorry guys, 1 second. My timing was off. This is like halfway through the slideshow before you. Okay, and then I have to go back. I need this menu to move. There we go. Wait, hopefully that worked. All right. I was just watching the end of it. There's a little bit of delay, so I was watching the end of it while you guys were watching it. Thank you all for participating. Like I said before, this was really, really fun for me to do. It's been really fun for me to interact with all of you and have sort of behind the scenes chats about cloak making and just being able to connect with all of you. It's been really fun and really special. I would love to do another sew along. If there's anything that you're looking to make that that I can help or do another sew along for, please let me know. My emails and DMs are always open, and maybe the next one could be something really quick and fun, like that we could do in like a week or two or something really short. And then it is time to pick some winners for gift cards. So here's my tin with all of your names in it. Everyone is in here twice. You can only win once. So if I draw you twice, then you're very lucky and you should maybe go buy a lottery ticket. But there will be 2 different winners, and I'm gonna set up. Here we go. So everyone's name is in there just for. So number 1, we have 2 people. We have Alan, congratulations. And we have Kat. Congratulations to both of you. I will be contacting you. Oh, you can't see them, can you? Let's see if it works. Let me see. I just realized because of the way the light is, you can't see them. So you don't know if I'm lying or not. Can you see them now? There you go. You can sort of see them. So you know I'm not lying. I didn't pick them. You guys, it was totally random. I think it's the way the sun is coming in the window. Anyway, Kat and Compass and Huse Tailor, you are the winners. I will be contacting you because this to send you the gift cards, I will need your emails. So I will be reaching out to you for that so that you can claim your prizes. There will be some new things coming into the shop in the next few weeks. So if you want to wait and see what that is, you're very welcome to do that. There's no expiration on the gift cards. It will just be like any other gift card to my shop. If you had purchased it or if someone had purchased it for you, it will be good. It will be good until forever. So leave those separate. If you are looking for things to sew and you would like another sew along, there are 2 sort of things coming up in the near future. My friend Mary is hosting a sew along for the Hamilton Spencer, which starts in March. I will put her, she has the schedule up on her Instagram feed, and I'll add the link for that in the description. So if you would like to make a Hamilton Spencer, you can do that. And I think those meetings are every Sunday. And some of them, I think there's like a video or a Zoom or something like this. And some weeks there isn't. So it's pretty, I guess, flexible as far as commitment goes. And then Ari is not a sew along, but she is organizing a group of people who are all making stays, mostly the Augusta stays. But if you are looking to make a pair of stays and just kind of want some other people to make those with, she is doing that. And I will add that. I'll add Ari's Instagram handle there too, so that if you want to join in, you can reach out and contact her. I think that is not starting for maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. I think the schedule is still being organized, but I think that's the consensus that she's got as far as everyone needing some time to collect materials and things. And what else there? I feel like there was some other announcement that I was going to make about the sewing of things. For anyone who has been following along or who is watching the replay and is either not finished with their cloak or is hasn't had time to start one, I still have one other cloak that needs to be sewn. So feel free to just tag me and use the hashtags. I would love to see it. I love seeing everybody's work. It's really motivating for me. So I think those are all of my announcements for today. So congratulations to Kat and Alan. And thank you to all of you for being here for those of you who are here every week, thank you for being here every week. If you are watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And thank you for sewing along with me. I've had a lot of fun and I hope that we can do this again soon. So I will see you next time, hopefully with no sound problems. So thanks. Have a good weekend. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you, and I will see you soon and talk to you soon. So, bye guys.